Kingsborough, Massachusetts at our BAPS religious projects. I'm here with TJ Rafferty. TJ is our General Superintendent here at Energy Electric, one of four, right TJ?
One of four.
You know, we have as a company created this position, and the point around this position was taking some senior foremen off of a project that they would only just be on a project like this for 18 months, however length of time. And we felt that the General Super was a position that we could create that could affect more. So TJ has ran some very large and complex projects for Energy Electric for many years, has taken up other positions here at Energy Electric, has done a lot of work with us, and has been a huge stalwart at Energy Electric and helped me in particular and all of the operations team to become a better company. So when we created this position, TJ was one of the most obvious candidates for it. And you know, but TJ, I suppose let's go back a little bit. When was your first day at Energy Electric? How long ago have you been doing this?
November 2009.
There you go.
I came in to start low voltage.
Yeah.
I was pulling data and coax.
Right.
And then I was offered to go to school for my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
You know, and I took the journey.
Right. And that was with Bruce
at the
time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, did you do a lot of like public projects, or what kind of projects were you doing with the low voltage?
It was a mix of everything.
Yeah.
So we were doing some residential, commercial.
Yeah.
There was some industrial and commercial projects.
Yeah.
Yep. I was almost like a low voltage service department at that time.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And you went back then to get your license, right? You went back to do the German electrical license at that point?
I did 4 years of schooling while working full time, and got my journeyman's license with Energy Electric.
Who was, would you say, the most influential around you at the time that's probably still here right now that worked at Energy Electric, what you worked with?
Well, another General Superintendent, two General Superintendents.
Okay.
There's Casey and Fred.
Right.
We have some foremen that are still in the field. Dave Arouge was a huge impact.
Yeah.
Bruno Fernandez was a big impact. Mike Murphy.
Right,
you know, we'll say all of the
good
greats,
guys.
All of the greats, yeah.
All great guys, yeah. Because that's something I think I've had to be very cognizant of. There was a core there that helped Bruce build the company and get it to where it was when I came along and other people came along, and you were one of them. And you know, fantastic guys, fantastic individuals, because one of the things that I saw with you in particular was your ability to manage people. You know, I think that's this role, we'll get to it, but you know, those guys to manage you, you know, like there's none of those guys mince their words. They're all fucking phenomenal electricians. You know, they know their trade, right? This is a big word we talk about here at Energy Electric, and it's tied to apprenticeship, but mentorship, right? Mentorship is really what it's about these days. This industry is all about mentorship, and mentorship is different, I suppose, to what you and I saw on job sites 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. You would have seen that, right? Those guys, you know, I think it's interesting to see we as a company and how we've evolved, but the core of who we are, as you said, Casey, Fred, and yourself, right? Chris Kopecki's been around a long time here too. There's the four guys that are running the General Super position for us right now, but their essence is a long time ago at Energy Electric, right? So that was the type of work. So what was your kind of path then to where you are now with the General Super? You know, talk to me a little bit about the types of projects you were on, shall we say, the size of jobs, some interesting ones, the kind of work you were doing, and kind of how you saw the future as you were moving through those jobs. Like you were always talented, but what did you kind of always feel like was your role, or did that constantly change in your mind?
Yeah, it was all job dependent.
Right,
so,
right.
But the biggest thing on the jobs was taking that leadership role.
Yeah.
You know, not just sitting back and being told what to do.
Yeah.
It was always, what can I do to help you, and taking that responsibility on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And as the years go on, you take more and more and more.
Yeah.
And then one day just get put into a job.
Right.
Like, we believe you can handle this.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a spread your wings and fly type of situation.
Or thrown into the deep end type of situation, right?
But having that relationship with, you know, previous foremen and journeymen, there's always a resource out there.
Yes.
For
yes.
You know, a phone call.
Yeah.
And they'll walk you through it.
Right.
And, you know, as successful or unsuccessful a job was, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
And you move on and you do better on the next one.
Right, 100%.
So my first project was actually Gardner DPW on my own with Giacomo Baldina and Scott Bowden. So that was a three-building...
That was the one you ran?
That was the one I ran.
Right,
that was a three-building setup, a garage, an office space, and then a conversion.
Yeah, Scott and Jack, good guys to have on it too, right?
They definitely were.
You go figure it out.
Yep. Yeah. And then after that, I moved into a couple of fire stations.
Yeah.
We did North Andover Fire Station, Dudley Fire Station. Helped out Fred a little bit at Littleton Fire Station. He did the bulk of that one.
Yeah.
And then, some state police work, a little bit of residential. Went down to Barbara Jordan in Providence there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of aspects. We did gas stations.
Yes, you did a lot of different stuff. Yeah.
Spent a lot of stuff in about 17 years.
For sure. Let's walk a little bit here. So the biggest thing, that I saw with working, with those guys, I kind of feel like when we started to talk about this general super kind of position, it was the thought process. The thought process for me was like we were trying to figure out. We've got these talented guys. Our field is growing, right? Our field as electricians when apprentices was growing. And when we first come on board, we were somewhere in the range of 80 to 90 electricians in 2021. We're up in the range of 170 now, right? As you scale and having a control of each individual job, the people on that project, their annual reviews, the setup of the job, the closeout of the job, it can be inconsistent when you have maybe you 4 guys on our 4 maybe larger projects, then there's 10 other guys, there's 4 other people that are all involved. It's hard to maintain that consistency across all the projects. So the idea with this role as a general super and what we do here at Energy Electric is that, some of the advantages we like to look at is that consistency is there, and then there's a mentorship there, because what we're seeing is a lot of our 27, 28, 29-year-old electrician that has ambitions of running work like what you had, that first project you got. It's hard, I suppose, to have the confidence to go ahead and take that role on, right? Because it's like, I'm going to be handed a set of drawings, I'm going to be put on the job, I'm going to have to order materials, I'm going to have an answer to a superintendent from the client.
It's a big weight.
It's a big weight, right? And I just said it to myself, even coming up here, thinking about it, like, if you want to learn, can someone manage people? Well then, if they have ran a large electrical construction project that's complex, right, that comes under hours, meets the schedule, and everyone stays safe, that individual can manage people, right? There is no better way to figure out how someone can actually manage people is if they can do that in our industry. And that's something that you've done, but, how have you found so far the general super position? Because it is something, as we've worked through your career here, and I've seen it, that when we thought of it, I said straight away, TJ is a perfect fit for this. This is almost the thing that we've been looking for. For TJ, I would say, Casey was kind of doing it to a certain extent. We kind of just maybe formalized it a bit. Fred wasn't, right? We were just saying like, he ran a lot of large projects for us. That's a big risk taking him out, right? And Chris was doing the role at the time, I suppose, it is as best as he could. But I think we as a company were putting him under too much pressure because, again, our growth was not allowing it, right? But how have you felt so far the role has been? Because it's a challenge, right? Because you're in control, but you're not in control. You're working with the foreman. You leave the job site, everything's clear as a whistle, right? You know what's after what we want. You come back, maybe it didn't happen exactly as you did, or you get a phone call as soon as you drive out of the job site. Remember we talked about, right? We have ways of figuring it out, and I'll talk about the general super form that you fill out in a little bit. But how has it been for you so far?
It has been hit or miss. It's been taken really well by foremen. They do reach out, as a support system. So I help guide them. I'll help dig into things, help coordinate. The other field employees take well to it too. Yeah. As far as, like you said, you can coordinate all day long, and then field conditions change in an instant. Yeah. And then the plan goes out the window. So sometimes it feels like you're spinning your wheels. Right. But I've seen a lot of good progression with it. There's now more communication between field and office. That's huge. Right? We're able to pass the information along. If we're not getting the information on the job site, I'm that middleman. Right. I can chase that information to try to get it a little faster. Right. Yeah, it's like that piece you just said there is so critical, right? That in between the office and the field is the conundrum that a lot of electrical contractors kind of struggle through, right? It's what's happening on the job site versus what the office understands what's happening on the job site. You guys are the link between those two things. Like, for a simple example that we have more even recently, and something that I saw, maybe didn't realize at the time when we were creating this, but there's some stuff we realized that are not good, some stuff we realized that are good. One of the good ones was, we get awarded a project. It happens over and over. We talk estimating talks about the project, and they say, okay, yeah, starting first week of September, we're awarding you here in June. Superb. You get awarded. PM gets assigned a job inside with the general contractor, make the phone call, hey, I need you there next week. Yeah. And it's like, whoa, we said September, right? So it could be hook up my trailer, some underground, some sleeves, whatever, right?
But one of the things with the general super is we can assign a general super day one, right? So then we can introduce them to the PM, you can take the phone calls, you can talk about what the project is, you can organise that initial work. But you can also then start to coordinate with pre-construction, Nate Watson and his team, to say, hey guys, here are the site conditions. I don't know if I love that. We're talking about this particular foreman, because the job's not starting until September. We'll have 2 or 3 foremen in mind. Maybe sometimes you have it down to 2, but you don't know really until jobs start to finish and the right job, the right person for the right project, the right location, licensing, all of that, right? It has to be all done correctly. And it's like the general super's been able to be that bridge, that gap. So that when, because Nate always talked about that, he's like, here's how I would do it. And then we made some of those mistakes, I don't know if we made Fred in particular, where Nate went and just built the job as he would have done it, right? And he designed a job as he would have done it. We handed to a foreman who'd never really done it that way before. And they're like, well, no, I don't want to do it that way. I'm just going to build it this way. That just seems like a load of waste. There's a bit of ego in there on both sides. There's a bit of, this is how I do it kind of on both sides. But one of the things with the general super position is you can have an idea who's going to run the job. You can have the conversations with Nate about how he's thinking about designing the job. The foreman can maybe have a couple of phone calls too, so you're coordinating all of that. So when we get to the point where it's handed off, the transition meeting happens, I think the general super is absolutely critical there, right? They can bridge that gap. The foreman who's getting the project realizes, look, there has been some thought about me. I wasn't just an afterthought and here's shoved across the table. Here's how to go build it. Here's how we're going to get you to go build. It's not. Here's how we were thinking about this. We knew you liked to use that particular product. We know and here's your team you've worked with before. You remember we did this over in this project. We're going to try and repeat that. All of those types of conversations I think are phenomenal, and I think it's something it's a big deal about this position. Another piece of it I think that's difficult, right? But I don't know how much you're loving it, is the review process, right? So one of the things we've done is we've split up the field basically into quarters. So 25% of the field you get as in relation to doing the reviews. And I think, since we've come on board, and Bruce had it when I came on board too, was the reviews. I said it was a massive deal for me in the field as an electrician to have an opportunity at least once a year to talk with someone in the office about how I'm doing. It's not just an hourly rate. It's not here's $1, here's $2 an hour, off you go. Like there was some of that, other companies have sent letters out, right? There was just all sorts of, I suppose, nonsense like that. We've made a big effort to do that. How have you found the reviews so far? How have they gone for you?
It's hard to know everybody's abilities and strengths. Yeah. We do communicate with foremen and other leaders that they have worked with and get input. So it's not just my input walking onto a job site, not seeing you for 6 months and saying, this is what I see. Yeah. We're getting peer input to it. Yeah. So that's how it is all based, which does help.
Huge.
It's very receptive to do in person. Yeah. Yeah. And I think everybody prefers it that way. Yeah. Instead of, like you said, instead of getting a letter and it's you have nobody to talk to, at least I'm a face. Yeah. At least I'm somebody that they can put some gripes to, and and I can go back with that. And address it to upper management. Yeah, and I think that's, honestly, I think too, is some of the parameters around doing the reviews is that we've given you guys as much flexibility in the process of a review as possible, right? We don't want, I know myself, another thing I didn't like when I went to go do a review with someone and they said, hey, we're giving you $1.50 and you wanted $2. I don't want that person walking away and going, hey, I'll be back to you, I just got to go talk to the decision maker back here. Drove me nuts. I said, well, I want to talk to the decision maker, and why am I talking to you? Right. So that was some of the stuff we try not to do. So you have the remit, right? We talk about it. If we could say $1.50, if you think he or she deserves the 50 cents, go ahead and do it. If you don't, fight your corner there too, right? And have that conversation about what needs to happen. Because I think that's the other piece of it, I think, for us too, is we're trying to get more data driven, like what you said there. And Bridget is a new product that we're kind of rolling out at the moment that you're aware of. Yes. And one of the things that has, which is going to be super helpful for the general supers, is a baseball card type approach to the strengths and weaknesses of that individual, right? So I think that's one of the things that when we're starting to schedule people, because that's another thing for general supers, which is a nightmare, is to figure out who goes where, when jobs are finishing, this license is freeing up, this apprentice is freeing up, the prefab techs are ready to get out of the prefab shop. And the skill sets to be applied to that job, or training opportunities.
Training opportunities, 100%, yeah. And where are they weak? Because I think those baseball cards